Hi, welcome to our channel, Programming of Mind, where we accelerate your knowledge with concise, from high-value book summaries. Let's begin the power of Mars and Venus in communication. Why do men and women speak different languages? Communication is one of the most powerful tools we have in any relationship. Yet, for many couples, it's also one of the biggest sources of frustration. Men and women often find themselves speaking different languages, not because they want to, but because they naturally express their thoughts and feelings in ways that are influenced by their biological and emotional makeup. To illustrate, imagine a couple, Laura and Dave. One evening, after a long day, Laura tells Dave that she feels overwhelmed by everything going on in her life: work, family, and social obligations. Dave, hearing the word overwhelmed, immediately begins thinking of practical solutions. He starts suggesting ways she could get better organized, delegate some of her tasks, or manage her time more effectively. But Laura doesn't want solutions. What she really wants is for Dave to understand the weight of what she's feeling, to acknowledge how exhausting it is, and to simply hold space for her emotions. Laura's frustration grows, and Dave feels confused. He thinks he's helping by offering solutions, but in reality, he's missing the point of Laura's message. This misunderstanding is rooted in the different ways men and women communicate. The different needs of men and women in communication. For men, communication often serves a practical function. It's about solving problems, offering advice, or making decisions. When a man speaks, he may be thinking about how to resolve the issue at hand. He wants to take action, make things better, and offer advice. This is a direct reflection of his inner world, where achieving solutions is often a primary goal. For men, being able to fix a problem validates their worth and competence. For women, communication often serves a different purpose. When a woman speaks, it's often not about seeking solutions, but about creating connection, sharing her emotional world, and receiving empathy. She may not even need or want a solution. What she craves is understanding, someone who truly listens and validates her feelings. This difference can sometimes leave men feeling frustrated or dismissed, while women feel ignored or unappreciated. This difference doesn't mean that men are less emotional or that women are incapable of solving problems. It's just a different approach to communication. Recognizing this is the first step in bridging the gap between Mars and Venus. Real-life example. The power of listening without fixing. Take the example of Ben and Julia, who have been married for several years. One evening, Julia comes home feeling overwhelmed by work pressure. She starts talking about a difficult project she's managing and how stressed out she is about meeting a tight deadline. Ben, ever the problem solver, immediately suggests ways she could handle the situation better, perhaps asking for an extension or delegating more tasks. Julia, however, doesn't want a solution. She wants someone who will understand how much pressure she's under. She feels like Ben isn't listening to her emotional experience. He's just trying to fix her problem. Julia, feeling unsupported, withdraws. Ben is left wondering why his suggestions weren't appreciated. What went wrong? In this situation, Ben's instinct was to fix the problem, which is a typical male response. But Julia was looking for something different: emotional support. She needed to feel that Ben understood the stress she was under. This misunderstanding could have been avoided if Ben had simply listened without trying to solve her problem immediately. If he had paused, acknowledged her feelings, and offered empathy, Julia would have felt more connected and supported. The importance of asking, not assuming. One of the most valuable skills in a relationship is the ability to ask questions and seek clarification. It's easy to assume that your partner wants the same thing you do when they communicate, but assumptions often lead to misunderstandings. Asking open-ended questions like, "How can I support you right now?" or "What do you need from me?" can open up a dialogue that leads to deeper understanding. For instance, after listening to Julia, Ben could have said, "I hear that you're really stressed about your project. How can I help?" This simple question would invite Julia to express her emotional needs, allowing her to feel heard and validated. Instead of trying to guess, Ben would be actively participating in the conversation, showing interest in Julia's emotional world. Understanding nonverbal communication. While much of our communication is verbal, a significant amount of our interactions happen through body language, tone of voice, and nonverbal cues. Women, in particular, tend to use more nonverbal communication, often relying on facial expressions, gestures, and tone to convey how they feel. This can sometimes leave men feeling confused, as they may not always pick up on these cues in the same way. Let's go back to Laura and Dave. One night, Laura says she's fine, but her posture is slumped, her voice is low, and her eyes are distant. Dave, focused on her words, doesn't pick up on these nonverbal signals and assumes that everything is, in fact, fine. For Laura, the discrepancy between her words and her body language creates frustration, as she feels that Dave is not truly seeing her emotional state. In relationships, it's important to pay attention not just to what your partner says, but also to how they say it. Their body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice often reveal what they're really feeling. The role of emotional needs in communication. Men and women have different emotional needs, and these needs often come through in how they communicate. For men, emotional support can come in the form of respect, appreciation, and physical intimacy. For women, emotional support tends to come through emotional connection, validation, and verbal reassurance. Let's take the example of a couple, Amy and Josh, who have been dating for a few months. Amy has had a stressful week at work, and she's feeling emotionally drained. She comes home and tells Josh about her struggles, seeking his emotional support. Josh, not fully understanding her emotional needs, responds by saying, "I'm sure it's not that bad. You're just stressed." Amy, feeling dismissed, becomes upset. Josh, not knowing why Amy is angry, tries to rationalize her feelings by minimizing the situation. Josh's response is a typical male tendency to rationalize or offer logical explanations. But what Amy needed was emotional validation. She didn't need to hear that her stress wasn't justified. She needed to hear that Josh understood how tough her week had been and that he was there for her. How to foster better communication in relationships. The key to overcoming communication challenges between Mars and Venus is to approach each conversation with empathy and an open heart. Couples who thrive are those who take the time to truly understand what their partner needs from the conversation, whether it's support, validation, or simply a listening ear. Men can learn to listen with empathy, giving their partner space to express their emotions without rushing to solve the problem. Women, in turn, can learn to express their needs clearly, avoiding the expectation that their partner should just know what they need. With practice, both partners can develop better communication skills, ultimately strengthening their relationship. Thank you for listening, and please like the video and subscribe for more great upcoming content that will put you in top 1% people in the world.